Josh, what's our podcast budget?
Last I checked, Jess, it was 0.
You're going to hate this next idea then.
Lay it on me.
Okay, me, we fly to Florida. We shoot a podcast in person that has nothing to do with our product because, like trust building and stuff.
Hey, Jess.
Hey, Josh.
Remember that time you came to me and said we should start a podcast?
I do. Like it was yesterday. Because it was really only like 4 weeks ago.
Basically was. At least when we finalized the planning.
Yes.
And I looked at you and I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, except for the fact that there's like a million podcasts and like most people don't listen to them and like they're mostly kind of boring and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That was a really good idea you had.
And I was like, here's why we should double down on it.
Yes.
So I think the main reason was I knew going in, and this was, we talked about this even when I was interviewing.
Yeah.
I wanted a video first content strategy.
Yes.
Right? That is really the easiest way right now to get mind share, to build trust, see the people behind a company, to be able to repurpose really easily.
Yeah.
Tons of social content, tons of newsletter content, tons of video content. It just really is a great place to start from. Much easier than the reverse, which is written first.
Yes.
And then trying to turn that into video, right?
But I thought you could just put like stock imagery of like people on the website and make it feel like very humanistic.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
It doesn't do it?
No. People want to see the people behind the company.
That's why you do the stock imagery.
Stop talking. There are humans in those photos.
Those
are real people.
They're not AI generated at all.
So, strategy. I think that was the big place we wanted to start.
Yeah.
Second, you're right. There are so many B2B marketing podcasts out there. Some of them are great. Some of them are a little meh.
Yeah.
Right. But we wanted ours to like rise to the top. Yeah. And really feel like our brand, which people we know already are really falling in love with. Like we have a lot.
Yeah.
We have a lot there in terms of just like affinity and opportunity. And it's like, we got to create, it's got to be so special. Like if we're going to do this, it's got to be so different.
Well, and I was with you until that point. I was like, cool, like tomorrow, let's jump on a Zoom, let's hit record and we'll like do a podcast. How did we end up $20,000 later here?
And I'm like, wait a second. That's not going to cut it, right?
Yeah.
I think because our brand is so different.
Yeah.
And we need to do something equally as different as our brand and as bold. And so it was like, okay, a lot of podcasts are doing this thing. We're 2 people on Zoom. We've been doing that since, the pandemic.
Yep.
People tolerated, people were good with it for a while because it was like, yeah, this is what we have to do in order to like create this stuff.
Yep.
Then we tolerated it for a little while longer. And now everything you see in your feed is like that. Yeah. And so, I think part of the idea is that you have to stop the scroll. We want to do something that feels really different.
Yes.
Let's do in person,
yes.
right? So we're here. We're at this creator house. It's amazing.
Shout out.
Shout out. Cool. Sweet Fish. Creator house. I do this. I do.
Boom. Dap them up, baby.
I've literally never done that move in my life until I sat in
Your
this
kids
chair.
are going to love that. They're going to be like,
Oh my gosh. Sorry, Collins and Emmy.
Yeah.
They're going to love that.
So you wanted to go for this vibe where like someone's scrolling through LinkedIn, you see all this sort of like low quality, low res podcast. Yeah. There's another one and you scroll and you're like, those are 2 people actually in the same fucking room as each other.
What's
That's
happening
different.
here? Yeah.
Okay.
Right? So like bring in the vibe. And then there's something about just like elevating the brand by elevating the people behind the brand.
Yeah.
I think we've seen this already in our LinkedIn posts where, we've kind of hinted at what we were doing here and people have said like, oh my gosh, I would listen to that, right? Yeah. People really want to hear the behind the scenes, like what are we doing? What do we argue about? What do we talk about? Yes. What are we planning for? And so I think that felt really, really good. So it was like, okay, we want to do this thing, but like now what?
I had a post before we get into the now what.
Yes.
I had a post, I think it was last week, where I really didn't want you to quit. So I just wrote this like really nice post about you, about how great and why you should hire like a content marketer as your marketing leader. Hopefully that worked and you stay a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm gonna need a bonus, but I'm here.
We'll talk about it. We spent the bonus on the podcast.
I'll take that. That's fine.
But I'll take that. Someone actually, I think in my post, I wrote something along the lines of like, our one-on-ones are like insane. It should be a podcast. And like in the comments, people were like, can you make this a thing?
Yeah.
But that wasn't like, we didn't start there.
No, we did not.
How did we get here?
So we first came up with this, actually a good idea for a show.
Yeah.
We were calling it Funnel Cake. So dumb.
If this whole like company thing doesn't work out, choir. We're going to do a choir.
Excellent. Yes. Yes. I've always wanted to do like gospel.
Yes.
Just gospel music all the time.
Just,
Where was I? Okay. We had, yes, podcast Funnel Cake. Okay. So we had this great name. We had this idea where the first episode was going to kind of talk about this observation you and I have made, and really a big reason for why you started Vector, which was things are really shifting in marketing. There's kind of this old way of thinking of like gating stuff and, you know, trying to understand where whole accounts are and leads, right? Like just anything for a lead. And there's kind of this new way, which is like, don't gate anything. Give it all away for free so that you're top of mind whenever somebody thinks they need you as a solution. We now have this idea of contact-based marketing. So like you can actually know the people that are actually going to make the decisions, tailor your marketing to them, right? So there was this kind of this old and new, and that was going to be the first episode of like what has been happening, what we see on the like very, very close on the horizon. Like it's the iceberg. We're about to crash into it. Bye-bye, Titanic. Lady throws the necklace over the thing.
Spoiler alert for those of us that haven't finished
Ship
it.
Sinks.
What? Oh my God. That sucks.
Right?
I was binging that later.
Okay, well, now you know.
But so like
Saved
that was
3 hours.
Damn. I just wanted to watch the car scene.
The best part.
It's the best part. It was a good idea. Like I really liked it. But every time I got on a call with you, you looked miserable.
I know. We started outlining the rest of the episodes. And it was like each one was going to be a different thing that you needed. Right? In order to accomplish kind of this new way of marketing. Transparency, trust, no friction, right? We're going to talk about that. And every time we started outlining it, it kept coming back to the product. Like it just felt like a really big infomercial, even though we were really consciously trying not to make that happen. It didn't feel good. And you could tell.
Like it was like it was this unspoken thing where it's like we kind of were like, all right, this is the idea, we have to play into it. And we would sit down and we would like write content, or you would write content and then we would review it together. And it was just like, it's just something doesn't feel right about
like
this.
It's okay. It's not wrong. It just doesn't feel like us. And again, it just kept feeling like it was a shorthand for like what we were doing. As a product, not as a CEO and a marketing.
It didn't pass like the sniff test, right? It wasn't something that we're like, would we listen to this ourselves?
Exactly. And so there was a point, I think, you know, about 9 days before we were set to start recording all of this. And I came to you and I was like, Josh, I got to kill this, right?
I was like, cool.
Okay. And I think you had so much empathy. You were just like, okay, all right, well, like, what do you need me to do? And I was like, I think what I need to do is I just need to go away for like 24 hours and come back to you with an idea. Like, I need to go away for a while, right? And so like, I spiraled that day and you were on a plane.
I was on a plane. I'll never forget. Like, I was trying to be empathetic, but like going back to like episode 2, right? I'm like, oh my God, we have all these other things we need to do, right? Jess is asking for 24 hours to go like figure her shit out, right? I'm like, oh my God, like we're putting a lot of money into this thing in 9 days. Like, are we going to figure it out? But I got on a plane and I remember when I left Drift, there was a woman that I loved working with. Her name was Maria. And she and I were texting like a year or so back. And she said something to me that was like really interesting that stuck with me. She basically said like, I work from home and I feel selfish, not only to my work, but also my children, because like the commute between my home office and my children's playroom is like not enough time for me to like catch up and like disconnect between these two things. And so you were over there spiraling and I was on this plane thinking about this comment and I was like, you know what would be cool is like, instead of having a podcast that's like a self-fulfilling promotion about what we do, like what if we had something that was this like 30-minute like separation where it's like, it's kind of work, but it's kind of unhinged and it's kind of fun. It feels like you're sitting there with friends. And like, I sent you that message and like at the same time you were typing and you're like, I'm feeling the same way.
Yes.
And you eventually got to this.
We did.
Yeah.
And part of what I was doing as you were thinking about that comment was I texted some very good marketing friends.
Yeah.
Shout out to Natalie Taylor and Chelsea Castle who like saved me here because I was like, if you hypothetically could listen to a marketing leader and her CEO talk on a podcast, what would you want to hear them say? And my first reaction when I got their text back, because it was like, I want to hear about the mistakes and I want to hear about like details, like how are you doing this? How are you thinking about this? And I was like, that is not the answer I wanted. Like I need the thing. Like what is the thing, right? And the more I sat down with that comment, I was like, no, wait, that is it. Like that is what our one-on-ones are.
They are. Yeah.
And we have said before, like in our one-on-one meetings, we were like, we should record this. Like, man, the energy's so fun. Yeah. We're like laughing and there's like crazy batshit ideas that like may or may not work, but we're brave enough to try it and find out.
Yes.
And I was like, people would want to listen to this, right?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of came full circle.
Yes.
And so that got me really excited. And I just started like in a doc and I was like, okay, this is the idea. It's like, we're dropping you in our one-on-ones.
Yep.
We're going to tell you about all the things that we talk about and think about. And each episode, and again, Seinfeld, I mean like life, everything just comes back to Seinfeld, right? And
it's a show about nothing.
It's a show about nothing. It's a show about just like our day-to-day shit.
Yep.
But like each episode, I started to write them out. And this isn't even what first crossed my mind was these would be the titles, but it was like, okay, the first one is like, you know, Jess wants to bring on an agency.
Yeah.
That's the first topic. Okay. The next one is Josh goes to a trade show and he comes back with all these crazy ideas. Okay, that's the second one. We'll figure out the title later. And then I realized like, no, that's the title.
They are the titles.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what people want to hear about, right?
Yes.
And so we started coming up with like, okay, these are kind of the 8 things we're going to talk about this season.
Yeah.
And the best part about this is like, you and I are just going to continue to work and come up with new stuff. And they're all relatable. These are all things that a marketing leader and their CEO have to discuss and strategize and talk about. The whole time.
Well, and what's the book? I'm one of those people that like doesn't read books, but I quote books as if I had.
Oh, yes.
Just read the Cliff Notes and it's like, yeah, it's such a good book. Isn't there a book about like a purple elephant, horse, cow? I don't know. Apparently, looking at your face, you don't know what I'm talking about either.
I read just as many books as you.
There's something I've heard about, totally read the book, in marketing where it's just like, you don't remember most things, but like you remember if you saw like a purple cow.
I think it's a cow. I think you said this to me and it's cow.
Yeah, and I totally made up. I think it's a cow. The comments will let us know.
You're so smart and well read.
I read a lot of books. But it's like, that's what was really interesting about like the creative process you went through is like, it almost felt like we spent so long trying to fit into the mold, which is like, what is the tactical advice that we can give people? And like, if you go on LinkedIn, that's what everyone is. It's like, here's the 23 things that like ChatGPT let me do with Clay today. Right. And instead you were just like, what if we just open the door to us yelling at each other about the crazy shit that we're doing? Yeah. Brilliant.
What if I just gave away all our secrets?
Yeah. Don't love that part.
I like snuck. That was in the fine print.
That was really, that was like in white font on a white document. Yeah. The old school like SEO way.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was really exciting once we were like, okay, this is it. We have it figured out now. Yeah. The next step was finding the right title. Yeah. And that felt really important because here's the thing. You say don't judge a book by its cover. We don't really read books, so it doesn't matter. We don't do that
only look at the cover.
That's the only thing I can go by. Same with podcasts.
Yeah, true.
Right? You look at the title, you look at the cover, and you're like, instantly. It's the same thing as going to a website. Yeah. You know instantly if that's going to be worth your time or not. Yes. And so it was like, okay, we need this title to feel so smart and fun and clever. Yes. And it has to give you the idea of like, what's the show about? Okay, we're dropping you into our meetings, right? I kid you not, this was a good almost 24 hours of me thinking of ideas. And I will tell you, Claude AI has been a great brainstorm partner on this. Yes. So I sat down and I was like, here are some title ideas I'm thinking of. Help me come up with more like this.
That's smart.
And then it would give me a big list. And I'd be like, okay, these are my 3 favorite. Yeah. But I want them to be more unhinged.
Tell me more about that part. Because like I've tried to use just generative AI for creative stuff. Yeah. And I feel like maybe I'm not prompting it right.
Yeah.
Because I always get like the marketing podcast, the 101 to like lead generation. Like it always gives me really shitty ones. How'd you get to, like, I saw your list. There were hundreds on there and they were all good. So you're whispering some shit to ChatGPT that I'm not.
I'm getting pretty good at prompting, and it's all in the prompt.
Yeah.
The thing I think I used to get scared of is like, if I prompt ChatGPT or Claude or whoever you use one time, and then I do it another, like have you ever seen that movie, Multiplicity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton clones himself, and then he clones a clone, and the clone of the clone is a total idiot, right?
Yeah.
Best part of the whole movie.
Yes. Yep.
And I was always afraid of that. Like, if you get too many branches out, is it gonna like schizophrenic, like, right? And like the ideas are so like out of left field, you can't even read it anymore.
Can we make that face you just made the cover of the podcast, please?
God, no.
Yes, you were worried it was just going to like go off the rails. Yeah,
that's how you have to approach it.
Okay.
So I think you do have to be okay with like layering some prompts, right? It's kind of like a little bit of a carrot on a stick, right? And you're kind of like, just get a little closer. Okay, a little closer. Okay. And so I think the idea was, okay, here's some of my favorite titles so far that I've come up with. Give me more like this. Okay, these 3 that you just gave me are pretty good. Give me more like that.
That's cool.
Okay, I want them to be more unhinged. Okay, now here's some more. Ooh, that one's pretty interesting. Okay, let's feed that back in, right? So I think the idea is it's got to be more of a conversation. What got me to this meeting could have been a podcast was, we were really circling around this idea of, we wanted it to feel like you just dropped into our meetings. It's just a conversation. You get the idea that like, that's kind of what it's going to be about before you've ever listened to it. And I prompted it to say, like, can you give me ideas where like you're actually talking about the meeting itself? Like it should be self-referential. And that was one of the things it spit out. And I was, and I immediately was like, that's it.
That's
right there.
So interesting. Well, and what I thought was interesting about like your creative process when you clued me into it, because I wasn't part of it. I was like, go do some shit.
You were on a plane doing cool, whatever.
I was just like on the golf course, right? Just doing CEO stuff.
Founder mode.
Right. Just founder mode on the golf course. Dead. You were like kind of keyed into 2 things. There was this meeting could have been a podcast, and then there was some more like generic ones like the one-on-one or something like that.
Yeah.
And what I thought was interesting is like you used AI to sort of get you in the right direction, but ultimately like a human had to come back in there, because you were asking questions about like, if it's the one-on-one, like, is there a semicolon? Is that going to be hard to search? Are there other podcasts already like this? So, like, you eventually had to come back in there and sort of like finish out the creative effort.
And I had to be the one to recognize it was good or not.
Yes.
I think that's something that actually really scares me about AI and like incoming marketing talent. Is like, I have worked for 20 years to really hone the craft and understand what's good and what's not. And they're going to have to figure out their own way with a cheat code like AI to figure out what's good and what's not. And so the really, really good marketers that are in kind of this next wave and generation of marketers coming up. This is a total tangent, by the way.
But I like it though.
It is, they're the ones who are really going to study great content and understand what great looks like, so that they aren't just using AI to create for creation's sake. They're using it to make themselves better.
I'll stay on this tangent with you just because I like it for a second. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. I was actually returning home from the CMO summit, and I was going down the escalator at the airport, and there was a big Claude like billboard coming down the stairs, and it was like Claude on one side, and it was like a 30 by 70 foot billboard in the airport. And then on the other side, it was just like great AI. Like, that's all it was, just the word great AI. And I was just thinking to myself, like, copywriting for print is so different than designing for digital, right? You don't use drop shadows, all this sort of stuff. And so there is that element of needing a human that's just trained in these things to figure it out.
Totally. And that was the other thing, was like, there were a couple we really liked, something about like the one-on-one that felt really interesting. There's 17 podcasts out there. You know, there was only like one that spelled it, the number and the colon and the number. But then when I started looking into like the different spellings and like what are the different ways people are going to search for this, there were too many. And it was like, no, out of the question. We cannot get lumped in with that group. Again, going back to the idea idea that we want to stand out so much.
Yes.
So once we landed on this, it just felt like, okay, this is it. And now we can go in and we can really outline these episodes and be really excited about it. Hey, Josh, I think we've reached the part of the show where we look dead straight into the camera awkwardly.
It's my favorite.
And deliver positive affirmations to marketers.
Let's do it, Jess.
Dear marketer, when you repurpose content, the original piece gets jealous.
Dear marketer, when you launch a campaign, your competitors have emergency meetings. So should everyone just go start a podcast? Every CEO just have a podcast?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I think, again, the market's really saturated. If you're going to do it, you have to be willing to invest and do something really different.
Yeah.
You could also just sit down and do some video. Like I think video first strategy is still really important this day and age.
Yes.
It doesn't always have to be a podcast.
Yeah.
I think there's something for our audience. Marketers love a good podcast. They love something different.
Yes.
And I think that made sense for our audience.
That I think was the big thing, and that I appreciated, again, going back to like, if you want to do this as a marketer, how to convince your CEO, how to convince your founder to make this investment is you didn't just say, oh, I think this would be a good idea. We should go do this. You brought it back to like, hey, there's this mission, going back to our previous, are we on episode 3 right now? Are we on 3? So it might've been 2. I don't know. But we talked about like tying back what you're doing to the CEO's initiatives and what they're going after. Right. Like a podcast as a standalone idea. It's like, okay, maybe, right? Like it's not going to tie back as close to pipeline as like a ad will or something like that. But you did this great job of basically positioning like, hey, if we want to win our audience, they're marketers, they feel like this, they need this, right? Like all of that sort of science went into this creative asset, which made it a lot easier for me to go stomach like we're going to go put this money into it because it's going to push these goals.
Yeah. I think for us, a big goal is brand.
Yeah.
Building brand, building trust. I think this podcast, fingers crossed, is going to help us do that, right?
Like, subscribe.
Yes, love it.
So how the hell are we going to measure this? Where's my ROI, Jess? Where's my pipeline?
Damn it, Josh. I knew you were gonna ask
Just storms out, hits $10,000 camera.
I'm done with this.
This place sucks. Just kidding. We love it, Creator House.
Oh my gosh. Okay. How are we going to measure this?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of things to measure here. One, I think are the obvious ones, right?
Yeah.
We want to see, are people listening? So we're going to look at downloads and views on YouTube.
Yep.
But I think maybe some of the less obvious are the more important. So there's something that I have coined called the repurposing multiplier.
Trademark.
TM.
Wait, say it again. The repurposing multiplier. Love that. What
Thank
the fuck
you.
is that?
Love that for you. What the hell is it?
Sounds good.
So the repurposing multiplier is this idea that your repurposed pieces actually work harder to get engagement and impressions than the original piece.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Sound bite.
Clip.
So the idea is that those are the pieces that draw someone in, right? And they're going to get more eyeballs just because in nature, you're probably going to use them in social or in an ad to bring people in and get people to understand what you're actually talking about on this show. You would use a really good soundbite or clip that might get someone really curious about what is the rest of this thing about, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea is that the stuff that you're going to repurpose actually draws people into the full episode. That also means it's going to have an increased engagement rate and impressions. So what I like to measure is the difference between those two things.
Yeah.
So some of the best programs I've seen have gotten like 116x on the repurposed content over the original kind of full piece.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think that's also something you can bring to your leader and say like, hey, we're not just doing a podcast, right?
Yes.
It's not like there's going to be 8 episodes and people are going to listen on Spotify or whatever. It's like, hey, this is actually going to power like our organic, we're going to do some paid media with it, right? Like there's so much more that you're getting out of it than just the one investment.
Yeah. It checks a lot of boxes. It's thought leadership. It's this repurposing idea. It's being able to get people to understand who we are in this company, right?
Yeah. It's not really a selling point, but
it is for me.
You're like, speak for yourself. I rock.
Another thing that I'm really excited to measure is mentions of this show in sales calls. So Mark Lowry, start putting this on your little whatever you do.
Yeah. People can be, who's Mark? Sales. If you want to buy some Vector, call him.
Buy some
Yeah. If you want to buy some Vector. Sounds like
sell Vector.
Sounds like a drug deal. Just like Vector. Call Mark. He's a nice Irish man that will sell you some
He's
Vector.
Lovely, and he'll sell you some Vector.
Interesting. So are you going to measure that? Like we're early stage, so we don't have like Gong, but I imagine someone's a little bit later stage could like go use Gong for this.
Yes.
We love like Udi over at Gong. But like we have like a knockoff generic version of that right now. So you're going to look in there and see like are people mentioning that?
I'm going to set up a little alert that has the name of this podcast or the word podcast.
That's cool.
Right? And see how many times this gets mentioned. Because if that's something that's bringing people in, we're going to blow this bitch up.
Blow this bitch up. That's actually when Jess slid this across my desk. It was like, ask, budget for a podcast, goal, blow this bitch up. Yes. Those are like approved.
That we're going to get that KPI into HubSpot.
Yes, yeah. just a dashboard called the Did We Blow This Bitch Up dashboard. There's no
answer. It's just yes or no.
There's no numbers on it.
Binary.
Wait, so question around measurement.
Yeah.
I was filling out a form the other day and I was thinking of you, which is like the least flattering thing I could say. I was like, wow, this form.
My God, thank you, John.
These fields are so Jess. But I was filling out a form and the last question on any demo submission is, where did you hear about us? Like, where'd you come from? And I was like in the drop down trying to find other. Yeah. Because I was just like, I just don't want to read through all these. And I clicked other and the little text box came up and it's just like, tell us what other is. And I was like, oh, I'll just pick one of the other ones. That box feels like a CEO's fault. Right? It felt like some CEO was like, listen, bitch. Yeah. Probably those exact words.
Most likely.
Basically said like, hey, listen, like we need to be able to measure everything that we do. Do you feel like you need to measure everything that comes out of this podcast?
No.
Good.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I'm working on vibes here, baby.
All vibe marketing. TM.
Although we didn't do that. We didn't try that. Somebody else did, so we don't want to get in trouble.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I don't know.
Not TM'd. Okay.
So I think it's important to measure the things that are going to show you that there's some impact.
Okay.
I am not going to delude myself to think that we're going to be able to point to every single person who ever heard this or didn't hear this and know exactly how it impacted our business. Yeah. That's just impossible to do. Yeah. And so we shouldn't wrap ourselves, in knots trying to figure that out. Yeah. If we can see signal that there's that it has some impact on the business, that people are listening, that they're interested. They mention it every once in a while in a sales call. Yeah. That feels really good. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We're getting good engagement on LinkedIn. Yes. People are sharing the episode. We're seeing downloads go up. Yeah. We're seeing people posting, these are my new favorite podcasts, and we happen to be in them. Yes. All that signal is great. Yeah. We should keep going.
Yeah. And I feel like this is something I had to learn the hard way, right? Like, if the goal for this podcast is for us to help marketers understand their crazy bosses, right? Like the journey that like going back, like the victors often write history on like how a company was formed, right? If you go ask David Cancel, like how Drift was formed, he was like, one day I just woke up and realized like marketers needed a different way for businesses to buy from businesses. And like that wasn't the case at all. Like we pivoted for like 2 years before we figured out that we should like do a chatbot. Yeah. The same for Vector, right? Yeah. It's like we were pivoting, we're trying to figure things out. And so it's so inherent as a founder and a CEO to want to measure everything because you've got so much scar tissue on the things that didn't work. Yeah. And so you just assume every like calorie that we burn at the company has to go towards some like ROI generating thing. And like if we could clip anything out of this podcast and like give it to a marketer is like, you have taught me that is not the case. Like so much of Vector's success is on things we cannot measure. Yeah. And we'd be a very different company if we only invested in things we could.
Absolutely. And I don't think people would care for us as much or we wouldn't be having this feeling of like, ooh, they're doing something really special over here. Right. Right. Because I think we're kind of not throwing that to the wind because measurement is important. Yeah. But it's not the end all be all. Mm-mm. And things like this are also important. Yes. Right. And you have to be able to do kind of both sides of that coin together. Yeah. To really make the impact that stands out in the market. Yeah, it's like a long-term measurement is the goal, right? Like you're a runner, I'm clearly not. But like
it's like when you want to go train for a marathon, right? If you go out and go for a single run, like you can't measure the impact of that single run, right? But when you start to add them up over and over again, you're like, oh, I'm going further, I'm going faster. Like I'm training ultimately for this.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like you have to do in marketing.
And guess what? You're going to have bad runs.
Yes.
You're going to go out and feel like crap one day. You're not going to finish it. You're going to cramp up and have to turn around and walk home.
You're going to try new shoes. They're not going to feel good.
Right. It's the same thing with marketing.
Yeah.
And if you base everything off of that one bad run, that one not great ad, that one campaign that kind of flopped.
Yes.
And again, go back. Okay, let's go back to the running thing.
Yeah.
Could have been the thing you ate. It could have been that you didn't get great sleep the night before. It could have been the weather. Like there's so many variables. Same thing.
Yes.
There's so many variables. Your post could have flopped because everybody was at an event and they don't care about you because they're at inbound, right? Like you have to think about all of the things that go into a successful program that you don't control. There's so many. And so how do you measure that?
Right.
If you can't measure that, why are we trying to measure everything?
Exactly. And I think CEOs often have a knee-jerk reaction to things. And I think just as humans, we tend to remember the negative more than the positive.
Totally.
Right? Like I always look at Yelp and I'm just like, most people go to Yelp when you've got something bad to say. Yeah. Right? And it's the same thing with marketing. It's like, oh, one bad ad, and all of a sudden the CEO's like, we're not doing any more paid spend. Yeah. It's just like, really? Yeah. Right? Like it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, that being said, I want you all to download this every time it comes out.
Please.
Please. My job depends on it.
I need to actually show ROI on this. I know we said that we shouldn't measure ROI, but we put a lot of money into this. Please fill out our forms and tell us that you came from this.
Oh, actually, I wanted to talk about that real quick. Yeah. That form thing. Yeah. So that's a hard balance to strike. Yeah. It is really important and really interesting for a marketer to know where someone came from. Yeah. So it's really, really helpful. I think because we market to marketers, we're going to probably get more accurate answers than most people. Marketers are the best at telling you, they want you to have the attribution. They know that is a pain. So they'll come to the meeting prepared with that very specific information. I listened to episode 3. Right?
Give you the clip at minute 13.
Yeah. It's what hooked me and I signed up, right?
Love that.
Marketers are great at that. Yeah. Maybe that's a good idea for us to have. Yeah. Other industries, other verticals, maybe not so much because they don't understand how important that attribution is. Yeah. And people lie on those things. They don't even mean to. They can't think of how they thought of you. Yeah. They think it was Instagram, but really it was a LinkedIn post that somebody in their network commented on and they saw it and it was of interest to them, right? People have a really hard time remembering where they first saw
Especially
you.
When it's multi-touch. Right?
Totally.
It's just was it the thing that I just clicked through? Is it the first thing?
Right. You don't know. And so it's do you need that? Or would that be better spent on a qualifying question? Yeah, yeah. You only get so many answers from somebody filling out that form. Make it count.
Here's the question then, right? There's 2 different types of CEOs. There's the Jess, I fully blindly trust marketing. It's an investment we have to make. I don't even need to see that answer on the form because I know ultimately everything we're doing works out. Then there's the ones that I need it because I don't trust it. For folks like me, that believe in it, trust it, I don't need to see the attribution. Do you still think that you need to put it there? Is a marketer in constant fear of at some point I'm going to have to justify this work, or I might report to somebody else someday, or I need it for my own purposes?
That's what it is. Yeah. I want to know, right? Yeah. I want to know that what I've asked you to invest in is actually doing well. Yeah. And what does that mean to me? I kind of need to figure that out. What are the things that I feel are important to be able to share with you to be it's doing good. We can't pinpoint it. We're not going to be able to say it won us this deal. Yeah. But hey, we've heard it in the last month mentioned on a sales call 5 times. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah. That is a really big signal to me. Yeah. So I think it's more of a good marketer is going to want to have that information for themselves to be able to make you feel their boss, their CEO, great about the trust and the investment that they have made.
Yes. I think we have another episode about this planned around swag and stuff, but there's copy on the back of this card game that we had built. Yes. And it's this big, the top of the copy is fine. It's this is for you as a marketer. We built this for you. And then at the very bottom, it's if this converts into a demo, text our CEO. Here's his number and like tell him that the card game sent you. Yeah, I just need that goddamn attribution.
It's the dopamine, baby. We need that boost.
Speaking of dopamine, we have a channel internally where we basically share like not just marketing wins, but like overall love for the company.
Yes.
Those things I think do a great job in helping a marketer like anecdotally
totally
like show the proof in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Would recommend.
I would too, 10 out of 10, because the things that most likely show up in there are you guys are doing something really different.
Yes.
It's not straight attribution.
Yeah.
It is really floaty, kind of intangible love for the brand.
Yes.
And that's really important for leadership to see because that you cannot measure.
Exactly.
And so to be able to see, that's really the only way anecdotally to see it.
Yeah. There's your tactical takeaway.
Put
a marketing love channel in Slack.
There you go.
Love it. Jess, I like this one. This was good.
It was. I mean, this meeting could have been a podcast.
It was.
This meeting could have been a podcast is a Vector production. Vector is a contact-based marketing tool that reveals your best buyers on and off your site and lets you target them with plays tailored to their exact spot in the funnel. Our site de-anonymization tool is free forever. Go give it a whirl at vector.co. See you next time.